Hi neighbors, welcome to the June 2025 How's the Market Update. For the last 4 or 5 years or so, I've been tracking 5 different market areas that I think are indicators of just how our market's doing in general. So this month we're going to look at how those rank against each other and look at which ones have had the biggest changes year over year. Those are downtown Birmingham, Homewood, Mountain Brook, Vestavia, and Hoover. So let's jump in. First of all, before I get into the comparisons of these different market areas and how they've done over the last month, I reached out to one of the leaders of all the KW market centers here in Birmingham yesterday as I was looking at these numbers, because nationwide, I think one of the main trends that we're seeing in the real estate market is as it's becoming more and more of a balanced market, we're seeing months of inventory increase. Balanced market has between 5 to 7 months of inventory. However, as I've been tracking these market areas in Birmingham over the last 4 to 5 years, I just have not seen any of them go above 2 to 3 months of inventory consistently. Sometimes they've touched 4 months of inventory, but usually on average they're around 2 months of inventory or less, and that is a strong seller's market. Now we are becoming more of a buyer's market in other ways, in terms of days on market, in terms of average sale to list price ratio. But as months of inventory goes, we've remained a really strong seller's market. And so I reached out to this individual just to make sure I'm not tracking it wrong or missing anything, because I feel like that's different than what's happening nationwide. And I just received a affirmation that, hey, real estate is such a local thing. You need to pay such close attention to your local market and pretty much ignore the national narrative, just because that's the real estate world. So whatever you're hearing nationwide definitely doesn't apply to the city that you live in, whether it's Birmingham, whether it's somewhere else in the country. You want to know what's going on locally, because it may be completely different than what's going on in terms of national headlines, and that's the case here in Birmingham. So all right, let's jump in and look at median sales price. And we're going to go from lowest to highest in terms of how competitive these areas are. So when it comes to median sales price, last month in May, Birmingham comes in first with a median sales price of $405,000. That's downtown Birmingham. Next is Homewood with a median sales price of $440,000. Third is Hoover, $450,000. Fourth is Vestavia, $632,000, and finally is Mountain Brook. Last month they had a killer month, median sales price of just over $1 million, $1,012,000. The next metric we're looking at is median sold price per square foot. So depending on how much money you spend, how much house do you get? Sold price per square foot. The first one, in terms of lowest dollars per square foot, you get the most amount of house for your dollar, as Hoover. Average median sold price per square foot is $209. Number 2 is Vestavia, $244 per square foot. Third is downtown Birmingham, $265 per square foot. Fourth is Homewood, $318, and then topping it off is Mountain Brook at $404 per square foot. Next, we're looking at sales to list price ratio. Depending on what it was listed for, what percentage of that did it sell for? And we're going from lowest to highest. First on the list is Vestavia / Liberty Park. Average sale to list price ratio is 97%. Next up, we had a tie between Hoover and Homewood at 97.8%. Those are 3 market areas around 97% sales to list price ratio. Have not been seeing that a lot so far in recent years. So to me, it's noteworthy to see multiple areas that are really competitive and desirable selling that far below average list price. Number 4 is downtown Birmingham. So now we're above 100%, 102.5% sales price to list price. And then topping it off is Mountain Brook. Last month, it was a killer number, 114% average sales price to list price. Next to last metric we're looking at is average days on market, number of days from showings beginning to going under contract. And we're going from highest number of days on market to lowest. So first is downtown Birmingham with an average days on market of 33. Next is Homewood, average days on market 24. Third is going to be Hoover, average days on market 22. And then tying fourth and fifth is Vestavia and Mountain Brook with an average days on market of right at 2 weeks, 14 days. And the last metric we're going to look at, I brought it up at the beginning, months of inventory. If no more houses came on the market today, based on how many houses have sold over the last month, how long will it take us to sell everything that's on the market right now? That's months of inventory. So we're going from highest months of inventory to lowest, least competitive to most competitive. Starting off downtown Birmingham, 3.8 months of inventory right now. Next up is Hoover with 1.9 months of inventory. Third and fourth, it's a tie between Vestavia and Mountain Brook. We have 1.5 months of inventory, and then the lowest amount of inventory is Homewood with 1.4 months of inventory. Now, I also wanted to touch on, out of these 5 different areas in Birmingham, which have undergone the biggest change since this time last year when it comes to the month of May. Downtown Birmingham has had the biggest difference in number of sales from this time last year. We have an 11% decrease in number of transactions. Most of these market areas have seen a decrease in number of transactions, all except for Homewood. When it comes to median sales price, last month, year over year, Homewood had a negative, a decrease of 18% median sales price. Mountain Brook had an increase of 23%. When it comes to median sold price per square foot, the biggest difference year over year is Mountain Brook, 19% higher. Almost all of these market areas also have a positive increase in dollars per square foot. So despite the market slowing down, we're still seeing appreciation pretty much across the board. When it comes to sales to list price ratio, the biggest change there was Homewood, 7% down from this time last year. Last year, Homewood was looking at 105% sales to list price ratio, and this year we're looking at just under 98%. So that's very different from how the market looked last year. When it comes to days on market, all these areas are up from last year. So that's a common trend across the board in Birmingham, but Hoover is up 22% days on market. Vestavia is up 17% days on market. Mountain Brook is the only one that has gotten less. It's about half as many days on market average as last year. Homewood is up 33%. Birmingham downtown is the exact same in terms of average days on market. And then when it comes to months of inventory, like I said, we are definitely at the end of the spectrum of a seller's market. However, all these areas are up slightly in terms of months of inventory. Downtown Birmingham is the biggest difference, 71% increase from this time last year, but that really just looks like 2.2 months of inventory this time last year, 3.8 months of inventory this year. So actually it's not a huge change, but it is a 71% increase. But across the board, months of inventory is up just slightly. So that's all these different areas, how they have stacked up over the last month. If you're curious what your particular area looks like, definitely let me know. If you have any questions about what's going on in the market here in Birmingham, please let me know. Really appreciate all of you listening, and talk again next month.